The Deadbone 1961 asked a question. In your experience, what might be the local versus outsider differences in expectations? Is it too simplistic to say locals are easygoing while outsiders are always in a hurry? Having lived in Belgium, I found Europeans more interested in conversation, wine, and food than politics or culture wars. It was refreshing. Okay, what comes to mind to share is that what I've discovered over the years is that there's a different sort of person who ends up on Saipan. Saipan is not the sort of place you end up by accident. You don't make a wrong turn on the highway and end up here, by mistake. The people who are here, for the most part, are people who have chosen to be here. No one here is being forced. Very few people, I would say, are being forced to be here. There might be some people who this represents the only means of survival for their families back home, but most people who are here, especially those like yourself who would be relocating here, are coming here by choice. One of the things that I personally like that endears Saipan to me is that this is the first place that I've actually chosen to live. So I was born Jamaican, fortunately, through an accident of birth, or if you're into the spiritual and metaphysics, you can say that I chose to be born there. But on a practical level, I didn't have a choice in that. Then, moving to the United States, I didn't have a choice in that either. I just followed my parents. So Saipan is the first country that I've lived in that I made the conscious personal choice to live here myself. So with that said, a lot of people who you'll probably run into here are people who have chosen to be here, and they're of a different breed. There are people who are world travelers. There are people who are merchant marines. There are people who have worked for the Peace Corps. There are people who are military, former military. There are people who are doctors, traveling doctors without borders. There are people here who've lived in Alaska, who've lived in Japan. So the sort of person you'll meet here is the sort of person who has a more tolerant and more expansive view of the world. It's not like your average person in a big city who is only used to life in that city. So the people here are of a different breed. And what I mean by that is, the people who live here understand that there are cultural differences. There are people who understand that the pace of life is a little different. So you probably won't find a lot of people who are in a hurry the way that they might be if they lived in New York. There are people who have come here because they like the slower pace. There are people who've come here because they accept that, people's personal space, people's pace in life, people's expectations are going to be different, and they choose to adapt. So I don't want you to think that there's this schism between outsiders and locals, and that they're at loggerheads with each other. No, there are people here who have chosen Saipan because they like how life is here and they adapt. I was at a traffic light the other day when that sort of dawned on me. I wasn't the first in line, but I was behind, maybe one or two cars behind the first person at the light. And as you know, if you've lived in a big city like DC or New York especially, if you're not already moving when that light turns green, you're going to get a whole line of people blowing their horns, to push you along. Here, the light turned green, and it was a full 3 seconds, maybe more, before that first pickup truck pulled out. And just to give you a sense, for those in New York, the light turns green, and it's 1, 2, 3 before that car starts to move. And no one, myself included, and I'm proud of myself, no one blew their horn, no one was agitated. So people here accept the pace of life. I'm sure maybe like me they may make note of it and may be a little frustrating, but no, it's not that foreigners are in a different place. At least not the ones I've met. People here are accepting and tolerant of the different worldview, the different cultural view. So that's my answer to that question. So someone like yourself, obviously, who's lived in Belgium, lived in Europe, understand that cultures are different, and that you can't come to a particular culture and try to enforce your worldview. The onus is on you to accept the prevailing worldview and not be combative or adversarial in that regard. So locals versus outsiders, differences in expectations. I'm sure there are certain things in which someone coming from the outside may wish that things were a little bit different. There are people here who come here who wish that solar power was more of a thing here. Since we have lots of sun, they may wish that wave power was more of a thing. They may wish that things were a little faster getting certain paperwork done. But people simply accept the way it is. I haven't run into people who are that it becomes an issue or a deal breaker. I'm sure there's some, but obviously they'll move out and they won't stay here long term. But the people who stay here long term, I find are a different breed, and there's not this adversarial relationship between locals and outsiders. So that's my take. Hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.
Subscribe.
Hear what a man say.